They shall not pass! Yes, Lord of the Rings is back on Amazon Prime, ladies and gentlemen, and it's the woke Lord of the Rings, ladies and gentlemen, without Peter Jackson. So we're going to talk about that tonight on The Report from Tiger Mountain. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's the woke Lord of the Rings, which is a new TV series. It started on Amazon Prime. I have Amazon, so I thought I'd check it out, I'd heard a few bad things online, about it, but I thought, well, give it a go. Richard's free, whatever, check it out. So, first of all, let's say up front, I wasn't a huge fan of the Peter Jackson films to begin with. I mean, I think fantasy and sword and sandal kind of stuff, is often hard to do. One of my favourite kind of fantasy films of all time is Excalibur. It was made by John Borman in the early 80s, and that to me is probably the finest kind of fantasy, wizards and kings. It's about King Arthur and Merlin and all this stuff. I thought that was the best film of that time I'd ever seen. So it's kind of something that's hard to top. But, I did think Peter Jackson sort of did give it a go, and obviously, he did put a tremendous amount of work into the effects, and, it was pretty well cast. He had a pretty good cast, for the Lord of the Rings films. And obviously, they were kind of a gigantic success, and the final one won a whole bunch of Oscars. It was certainly, a very noble effort and really made Peter Jackson a major figure on the international film scene, up there with someone like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, really. So, I got to salute him for that. So it was kind of interesting to see what they were going to do with the new Lord of the Rings. Now, I mean, what were they going to do? Were they going to remake the actual Lord of the Rings themselves? So I think they've gone in, I'm not a huge fan of the books, so I don't know much about the books, but apparently they've gone into the appendices of the Lord of the Rings books and to a book called the Silmarillion, which kind of, or Silmarillion, or however you pronounce it, Silmarillion, which is about, the mythology, the backstory of Lord of the Rings, things like that. So this show appears to be a kind of, a prequel to the Lord of the Rings films, and it's one of the most, I think it's the most expensive TV show ever produced. The budget is something like $1 billion, and actually Jeff Bezos from Amazon got involved in making it personally. He did the deal to buy the rights, which I think they bought from the Tolkien family for something like $250 million, and then I think they've committed to 3 or 4 seasons, maybe even 5. So by the end, they'll spend around $1 billion on this. So obviously they've invested a lot of money. So what are the results, ladies and gentlemen? I thought, well, with $1 billion spent, I'd have a look, and one of the first things they've done, Middle Earth was traditionally, I guess, kind of essentially a metaphor or a kind of recreation of life in the Middle Ages or life in the Dark Ages in Europe. So, obviously the Peter Jackson story was very, very, the casting was basically all white people. I think maybe there was a black person in it, 1 or 2, I don't remember it, but I remember it being criticised because that kind of woke politics began to kind of come to the fore around the time of the last Lord of the Rings film kind of coming out, and I remember there was an article on the whiteness of Lord of the Rings. So obviously, when they've decided to do that, they've decided to alter the whiteness of the kind of Tolkien mythological world. So, what are the results? I mean, it's not a complete disaster. I mean, there are some good characters in it. There's a kind of elvish woman who I guess looks like a young Cate Blanchett. Her character's quite interesting, and I guess it's a bit similar to the kind of blonde character that was on Game of Thrones. There's a kind of elf he's like a rebel elf soldier. Now he's black, but he seems to be a pretty strong black actor. So I thought, in relation to him, I thought they could get away with that. That kind of worked. I didn't kind of balk at that, but there's these characters who are the new hobbits, and sort of the leader, one of the leaders anyway, because they're a bit of a kind of society without a leader, is a kind of black guy. I didn't think that worked, and I think the thing that really did it for me was, the elf characters, which are basically all very Aryan looking, all very blonde, blue-eyed. They go and meet the dwarves, and the king of the dwarves, and they're all Scottish. They all speak with a Scottish accent. They're clearly a kind of metaphor for Scottish people, and the leader of the dwarves is married to this gigantic kind of fat black woman. And that was when I thought, okay, they've gone too far now, you know what I mean? If this doesn't work, and though it is, that quote can come out, it is over when the fat lady sings. So she started singing, and that's when I thought, well, I'm going to stop it here. So I've only watched 3 episodes. and I don't know. I mean, it wasn't a complete disaster, but I mean, the writing wasn't very good. I don't know too much about the appendices of Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion, but I guess it's a kind of backstory. They spent a fortune on it. From what I hear, it's not been that successful. I know a lot of people who are big fans of Lord of the Rings, particularly the books and everything. They're not big fans of the new show, and I even think Jeff Bezos' son, who apparently said to his father, "Look, don't fuck this up. You know what I mean? Whatever you do, because I love J.R. Tolkien." And I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, I think they have fucked it up. So there it is. I'll probably watch a few more episodes just to torture myself. But, when this kind of woman who's a kind of... she looks like Lizzo, or that Lizzo woman, or whatever, is the kind of wife of the head, the king of the dwarves. I just thought, this is wokeness gone too far. And that's the report from Tiger Mountain.